We've all been talking about diversity and inclusion. Over the next 25 minutes, we're going to hear from someone who is actively working to make this industry more diverse and inclusive, as well as celebrate the love of beer. Bracey is one of the co-founders of Fresh Fest, the first festival in the United States to celebrate Black-owned beer companies. The event, which combines beer, food, music, and art, takes place each August in Pittsburgh. Fresh Fest drew 1,200 people in its first year. In year two, it drew more than 3,000 beer drinkers. Beyond the annual festival, Day is also the co-host of the Drinking Partners podcast, a columnist with the Pittsburgh Current, and a comedian. Day is here to share how Fresh Fest came together, discuss the future of the event, and tell you all how you can get involved. So, Day, come on up. Hey, thanks for coming, man.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So,
my head is so big. It's crazy.
It's not that big.
It's huge. It's like a whole man. A whole man on my shoulders.
Take us back. Tell us how Fresh Fest came together. How'd you get the idea for this?
I got sick of being the only black person in the room. That's kind of how it all came together. I started out in comedy, and my partner, Ed Bailey, we were in comedy for a couple of years. We were trying to find a platform to get our comedy out there, so we started a podcast. We called it Drinking Partners because, comedy in Pittsburgh, like most arts in Pittsburgh, are just an excuse for people to drink for 2 or 3 hours at a bar. When we did the podcast, we just continued on what we typically do is drink. And we hooked up with Brew Gentleman Braddock, my hometown. We did a live podcast. And, afterwards they were like, hey, you guys are really cool. Have you thought about, hanging out with Hitchhiker and Gristhouse? We just did a freshman cask event with them. And we're like, that's how y'all get down in this industry? Like, because you can't, you don't go to Lowe's and you'd be like, oh, you like hammers? Well, shit, Home Depot got great hammers. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't happen like that, So, every time we did a podcast with someone, we met new brewers, we found that, they would just recommend us to more brewers. And we took that mentality of that collaborative, and that camaraderie from that industry and applied it to, the arts. A lot of times artists see other artists working in the space and they see it as competition. And we took that model and see it as a way of collaborating. If you're doing something dope, and I'm doing something dope, we could do something doper together. We've been doing a podcast for a few years. We do comedy shows. All of our comedy shows are BYOB, and there's always a craft beer sponsor involved with it. It's the same demographic, 25 to 45-year-olds with disposable income, and are adventurous and can appreciate the arts. So we have, we built that relationship with the brewers, and we brought in Mike Potter from Black Brew Culture onto the podcast. Got to talking to him. He's also local to Pittsburgh. Sort of learn more about the, some of the issues nationally in the industry as far as, diversity and inclusion, and sort of kind of brainstorming as to how we can, solve that issue. And the quickest and easiest way seemed to be, a festival. First and foremost, maybe just ending systemic racism, but outside of that,
one's a little simpler than the other.
Yeah, and with a festival,
unfortunately.
Yeah, with a festival, we're able to bring in what representation, so that it's important for people to see people doing well that look like them. We are able to provide a safe space, build a space where people don't feel weird about going in and asking about a product. It's oftentimes very daunting to be the only type of person in the room, whether you're a woman or a person of color or, if you're a bearded white dude in a full room full of black dudes, it might be a little weird, You might feel a little uncomfortable. We want to build a space where people feel comfortable coming in, and also building a festival that is an actual festival and not just a bunch of drunk dudes in a parking lot with a reggae band in the background.
Well, that's an advancement. So how much support were you able to get for Fresh Fest in year one, and how did that change in year two?
So the support in year one, it was was weird. So we reached out to all the brewers that we could, nationally, the black brewers nationally, of the 7,500 plus craft breweries in America, less than 60 are black owned. So there wasn't a whole lot of reach out that we had to do. We brought in 10. From around the country the first year, and we reached out to about 10 of the local brewers in Pittsburgh and said, hey, we're doing this Black Beer Festival. We want you to be involved, but you're going to have to brew a beer with a black artist, entrepreneur, or politician in order to be a part of the festival, because we want to build those bridges. If there's no black brewery in Pittsburgh, how do you build those bridges? And you do that by going to the community and offering them opportunity. And they were ecstatic about it. They were like, hell yeah, let's do it. And we were like, all right, cool. And then every week we got a phone call or an email from somebody going, hey, I heard about this Black Beer Festival. Can I be a part of it? And we're like, you got to brew a beer. And they're like, yeah, sure, cool. So, we added them. Because every time we add a brewer, we're adding opportunity to another, black individual. And it was all the way up until like a week before the festival, people were calling us like, hey, can we get on? I was like, how long does it take to brew beer? But so we got a lot of support from the industry locally the first year, and a lot of the media the first year, and not a lot of dollars or money in any way, shape, or form. Our only sponsor for the first year was a Brewers Association that came in. We were appreciative for that. That helped us, definitely, keep going, or at least not completely lose my house. And then
did you put up that much of a stake in it?
Yeah. So here's the thing about beer festivals: they're expensive. Especially like festival. So our festival, again, it wasn't just a parking lot with a band. We brought in the first year. We brought in 6 bands. We had 75 vendors. It was a lot. A lot of money to put up, and it was all based. There was no sponsorship, so it was all ticket sales. And people don't like to buy tickets in advance. We doubled our ticket sales the day of the event. That's how.
Sold like 600 tickets.
We sold 600. The Thursday. Last time I checked tickets, it was like 300 on Thursday, and by Saturday we had 1,200 sold. What helped was, one, the weather, because it was outside of the event, and two, there was this really shitty festival that was happening next door at a stadium, and people were leaving that in droves, and they were like, yeah, do you know there's a beer festival right next door? And they were like, what? And so we sold like 300 tickets just off of that shitty festival next door.
You should invite that shitty festival back to do their festival again at the same time.
That's the greatest marketing. I mean, God damn, please, if whoever that was, come back. We appreciate, they were like the ugly friend. You know what I mean? At the it was nice.
So how's it changed in year 2? What's year 2 like compared to
the second year? The second year, where there was a lot of hype, people had saw it, they knew what it was, and they were excited to be a part of it. There was a lot of talk, a lot of hype. Clearly, we sold a lot more tickets. Funding, sponsorships,
Really?
It was. Not to take away from any of our sponsors, they were all amazing. New Belgium came in, Guinness, Pabst was in there. Had a lot of local sponsorships, a lot of in-kind, a lot of media in-kind sponsorships. Work with some bars and things of that nature. Hack Pittsburgh they made us these coasters that were really cool. Added to the feel of the event. But in terms of actual dollars or whatever, it was less than a quarter of the expenses were covered by sponsorships. And I don't know what the model is typically in festivals, because this is my first beer festival.
So beyond money, what's the biggest obstacles that you face in putting together the festival?
I'm black. So it's hard being a black individual and trying to navigate these spaces that are majority white, because you are I don't know, there's always this kind of a stigma, I guess, around black events and longevity, and then this, anytime being black is controversial. in America. You know what I mean? Like, just my existence is controversial. So anytime you go to somebody and say, hey, I'm doing this black thing, people are like, you know what I mean? It's like, do I really want to get involved with a black thing? You know what I mean? Like, so, you know, like pitching that to people and trying to get people, you know, involved and trying to get people to understand why it is beneficial for them to not be racist shitbags is difficult. And you know, like we definitely got a lot of, in the first year, we got a lot of like, you know, feedback like, oh, well, you know, why's it got to be about black people? Da, 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 da. Why's it got to be a black beer festival? And it's like, nobody's complaining about the Italian festivals or the Polish festivals. You know what I mean? Like, I love my halushki, you know, like, you know, nobody's complaining about that. But when you put black on it, it becomes controversial because now you're talking about white guilt. And that's what's really is happening when they go, why's it got to be about black? They're like, why do you got to remind me that black people have it shitty? So we got a lot of that feedback, and I think that sometimes, you know, it's this weird thing, you know, and I've seen it in comedy, I've seen it in podcasting, I've seen it in various jobs that I've had in the past where, like, you know, being black, there's a certain level of things that you can get to before it starts to get weird and shit happens and you're like, why can't I get more of this, or why can't I move in that space? And you eliminate all the reasons. You're looking at, like, you know, I'm doing, you know, you're taking advice from all your friends and you're getting all, you know, this information. And what it boils down to is that it's still America, bro. You know what I mean? And you know, so I say that to say that the beer industry has been amazing to us for this festival. We got a lot of support, a lot of you know, a lot of people came out clearly, but there are things that, you know, I've run into, and I've been in these spaces and I felt weird that it was, you know, it was like, oh, it was black, all right, well, good luck with that. And you know,
seriously,
yeah.
like that's still happening, like, because it sounds like the attendance at least went up from year one to year two. The amount of people who wanted to participate seemed to go up, but you're still running into resistance, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, there's very few people that want to, you know, I don't know. I can't say there's few people, given what we've done. I mean, shit, Hop Culture just came out with an article that, you know, put us in the best beer festivals, you know, in America. And then we got, you know, USA Today, we won second best, you know. So clearly there's, you
That's
know,
awesome.
there's support. You know, I don't want to make it seem as if there isn't, but you know, somebody said yesterday, like, you know, it's trying to figure out, like, you know, the issue of diversity and inclusion in the beer industry is $1 million question, and you know, feel free to give us $1 million. Like, it's you know, I mean, because it's just as simple as putting in the work and building those bridges, and you know, that's what we're doing.
And clearly there can be more bridges built.
There could be more.
More help and more support.
Yeah, there could be. And you know, it's weird. I'm in the oldest, whitest city in America, major city in America. So I think a lot of what I'm seeing is weird. When I go to New York and I go to California and I see more, you know, kind of progressive places, some of the conversations that I'm having are more, you know, are more elevated. And it's like, I don't have to explain systemic racism. It's already accepted. And it's like, okay, how do we get to the next step? Whereas, you know, in this town, it's a lot of explaining to people that, hey, did you know black people have it kind of bad? Like, and also, you know, maybe your product, your brand, your industry, your lifestyle is limited because of the fact that it is very homogeneous in nature.
So we've got a lot of people here, and I'm sure, and we've got a live stream going, and I'm sure there are a lot of people who would like to help. How can they help? What can they do?
I mean, the easiest way is money. I mean, if you look at charitable acts, like in any way, shape, or form, money is always keying outside of, you know, actually putting in work. But you know, the Fresh Fest is bigger than just us and our festival. Like, we're gonna be cool. Like, I mean, we built a model where nobody can give us sponsorships, and we're gonna be fine. I mean, like, after 2 years, ticket sales alone will push us, and we've built enough of a brand where everybody's waiting to come back. But Fresh Fest is more than just that festival. It's more than just that beer. If you want to help Fresh Fest, if you want to help the community, go figure out how you could empower somebody, black in your community. Like go to church, a church function or something that's trying to fundraise, and offer them a keg and say, hey, here's a tasting. Like you can grow your business. Hire somebody black. Like, I mean, it's wild how you could find cheap buildings in black neighborhoods, but you can't find people to fill them with. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy to me. You know what I mean? Like, you got these companies that are, hundreds of employees, and the percentage is like 1 or 2. Mm-hmm. And I get that craft beer is a blind spot for the black community, but it's largely because the black community has been a blind spot for the craft beer community. Nobody's coming in our neighborhoods and saying, hey, we got jobs over here, we got opportunity. So I mean, honestly, if you want to help the festival, that's cool. You know what I mean? Like, whatever. But like, whether you or I or any of us or anybody listening to this ever meet or talk, or you ever come to the festival, this festival is about, the empowerment of black people and the growth of our society together. It's a hive mind. Like, we're better together. So if you want to help out the festival, if you want to help out the cause, go into a neighborhood and talk to the people, build those relationships, build those bridges where you're at, and that in and of itself is going to help us move forward.
We've got some questions coming in. What are some specific practices in craft beer that most consistently alienate people of color? What are our biggest blind spots as majority culture?
So when you go in and you get that, the model that I've seen interviewing all the brewers or whatever is that you go and you find the cheapest little space that you can kind of create in, and then once the money comes in, you expand or do whatever. Those cheap spaces typically are in black neighborhoods. Hire somebody black. That earlier, it was mentioned that, we're hiring our friends or whatever, and it's okay, cool, you're hiring your friends or whatever, but there's literally a motherfucker right outside your door that needs a job. Black people like money. I don't know if y'all know that or not, but I mean, so you could just go out and hire someone within the neighborhood, and when you hire somebody within the neighborhood, then they're going to bring people to your establishment because they're empowered and they're saying, hey, look at, I have a job. This is where I've learned some things, and the community feels a little bit better. Like when you're opening up a spot, are you investing in buildings, or are you investing in people? Like you're going into these neighborhoods, and there was a brewer, owner of a brewer or whatever, was like, man, I don't understand. Like I can't make any leeway. I've talked to all these heads of the folks of the community or whatever. You just went in and tried to grease the pockets of all the leaders or whatever. You didn't actually go to a community meeting and say, hey, how can I be a good neighbor? You know what I mean? Like, you're not having a conversation. You're just trying to figure out how you can sell more beer. You're not investing in the people. So, I mean, that's a blind spot, is just talking to people. Like, I got to go talk to white people all the time. That's how I built my bridges. Like, you got to go talk to black people. Like, I mean, it's just as simple as that.
Yeah, I think Dr. J said it best at Brew Talks earlier this year. Is it really that hard to talk to black people?
It is for some people. Shit. I think people don't even think. It's hard for people to say black. They'd be like, blah, blah, African, blah, blah, blah. Negro, they don't even know what to call me, let alone talk to me.
Has the festival made any kind of inroads with regard to economic development or job growth?
Wait, repeat that question. I'm slightly drunk.
Has the festival made any kind of inroads with regard to economic development or job growth?
I don't know. I mean, anecdotally, I've heard of, people that are more conscious of it. We've put on outreach programs where people have, expressed more interest. There are articles all across America about more people trying to get into it. People seeing, the black community seeing it as a viable option. In Pittsburgh, it's exciting to see people. An artist release an album and have a collaborative beer to, release at that party and at that event. I mean, like those little, and that was a collaboration that started at Fresh Fest that they kept that relationship going. That's
a hell of a good inroads.
Yeah, I mean, there are people, for those that don't know, Fresh Fest has, this past year, we had 45 local collaborations. So with that, you're seeing these relationships move beyond just that one day. You're seeing these artists that are getting paid for the can labels, for portions of the distribution from whatever that collaboration is, and building. Again, what we did with comedy was selling more tickets by adding some beer to it. So we've seen a lot more. We've seen a lot more collaboration. Exactly how that works out, financially for the collaborators and whatnot, we're not sure. We don't handle that portion of it, but we definitely have been seeing a peak in interest and some movement.
Yeah. So 2020 will be year 3. How will it be different?
So it'll be bigger. It'll be at a different venue to be announced. We grew out of it, which is a good problem to have, but it's still a problem. So we need to find a bigger space. This year we would like to have a few more lead-up events, more like in the, we had an event called Very Fresh, Very Local, where we met the people where they are. I have a social service background, and if you're going to make change, you have to meet the people where they are. You can't just stand there and go, hey, we got opportunity over here, come get it. Because when you're looking out from there, you're not seeing all the hurdles to get to you. So you got to go there, I can't I was talking to someone, I don't know what it's like to be a woman and being fearful, walking to my car. I know women that will not go to certain events unless they have someone to go with them, so those are hurdles. So, we would like to see more lead-up events where we're going to a community, a Black community, and having these brewers and symposiums and having many, kind of mini beer fest style, tastings and servings, with some entertainment and some educational symposiums so that we can educate the Black community on the opportunities that are in the beer industry. A lot of people assume that the opportunities are just brewers, and of all the people in the room, I would imagine the majority of you are not brewers. You're doing something around brewing. Just educating, saying, hey, are you an accountant? Well, you can be an accountant for the beer industry. You could be an artist for the beer industry. You could do whatever it is that you do, but for the beer industry, which, we just haven't seen that. So we would like to see more lead-up events, in that. And then the actual festival, that's a good question. It always, every year, it's dope to see it develop. We have a basic format with the 2 stages, with the live art, with the bands, with the collaborations. But it's always nice to, as it develops, people hopping on and saying, "Hey, I can do this thing. Would it be cool for your festival?" And we're like, "We got the room. Come on in." So part of the fun of the festival is watching it grow. I'm excited to see how that grows over the next 8 months.
As it grows, how do you maintain the intimacy that you've built with these other events that were slightly smaller?
So I firmly don't want it to grow much further than, we're looking at 5,000 coming in this year as a rough number. Anything beyond that, I would seem to be losing that. I've been to very large beer festivals where it just feels like you're in a Walmart of beer, and there's no camaraderie, there's no nothing. It's just, you gotta 4 ounces and you gotta fill it up as many times as possible. So we don't want that to be the vibe and the feeling. So I think that when we build the festival and we have the layout of the festival, we make sure that every space within that space has something to do where you don't have to leave and rush off to go over to that thing or whatever. You're comfortable in that space, which, creates that community environment when you're not just thinking about the beer and oh shit, I'm empty, I got to go get some more. You forget that the beer is there and you're just so engrossed in the conversation or the music or that artist or the story that you're hearing from that collaboration. So, I think as, with a little bit of growth that we have, I think that we're going to be able to keep that intimacy is because we're actually giving people things to do and things to experience and not just the beer.
Do you want to take it to other cities?
Oh, yeah, we would definitely like to. It has to be in other cities. There's Black people all over America. And again, meeting the people where they are is part of that, that mission. So meeting the people where they are in Pittsburgh in various neighborhoods, but also across America, and hopefully helping to, spur other beer festivals, that are like Fresh Fest. Fresh Fest shouldn't be the only Black beer festival in America. It is right now, but there hopefully, we inspire other people to come in and do the same thing. shout out to Jose Potato over in Raíces Brewing did Suave Fest this year, the first Latinx beer festival in Colorado. Was working with him a little bit on that. So it's dope to see other opportunities. If we're the only ones doing it, then we're doing something wrong.
Yeah. So there are so many festivals out there. How can other festivals sort of do the same thing, or expand their audiences? What would you suggest?
Again, whatever audience that you want to expand to, talk to them, integrate them. Be conscious of it. Tim White from Harris Brewing said, he walks into a brewery and he sees, rattles and toys for babies, and he sees, doggy treats for dogs, because people go out of their way to make it comfortable for these, for these people or whatever. And, but they have a Confederate flag right here. You know what I mean? Like, so clearly they know that they need to make efforts to make it comfortable for folks. It's just, who are you making it comfortable for? And that's, same thing with, any festival or whatever. If you want people of the LGBTQ plus community to come in, or the Black community, or women to come in, talk to them, integrate them, give them opportunity. Say, hey, we're doing this festival. How can you are doing something that can work with this? How can we do that? I mean, it's just a matter of talking and getting those perspectives and giving them some opportunity to work in that. Our target demographic is Black women, and we were able to bring Black women to the festival because of the 45 collaborations. Half of them were Black women. So Black women showed up. I mean, it was just as simple as that. And when you make a safe space for one type of person, it typically becomes a safe space for all people, because you're conscious of the need for a safe space. So you're not dealing with any of the fuck shit that happens when you go to the brr, and they're pushing people around and all that. We ain't doing that here. I mean, like, this is all we're very conscious of everybody's space, and I think that other beer festivals, again, shout out to the Hop Culture with beers without beards. I mean, that festival or whatever. Again, another festival that is constantly looking to expand beyond that, and I feel he was able to be successful with that because he integrated people from outside of the male perspective.
Last question. I'm running out of time. What would you like to see come out of year 3?
I would like to see more Black people employed in beer. I would like to see after year 3. I mean, and again, it's such a long process, and change just rarely happens in a short period of time. I might never see it in my lifetime. Hopefully my kids can see something. I mean, but it would be nice to see more people actually employed. A lot of folks, will collaborate or, offer some money or whatever, but like, you go to their establishment and it's still very, white. I mean, and it's like, you mean to tell me ain't nobody want a job, bruh? So I would like to see that in after year 3, maybe, people actually, instead of talking about diversity and inclusion, DNI, like actually doing something, some action, going behind that. Everybody wants to buy a Black friend, and I'm sick of that whole thing. I'm sick of talking about diversity and inclusion. To be honest, I know it has to be done or whatever. I'm more of an action-based individual, so I would like to see action.
Well, I'm glad you came here today and talked about it. So
thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. So thank you so much, Jay.